For Freaks by Freaks. This is how the game Neon White describes itself in its release date trailer. Having now played this game for 30 plus hours and having spent multiple hours on literally a single level to get my time down by milliseconds, I can say this is pretty accurate. For a lot of people, including myself, the best game 2022 was probably Elden Ring. I still consider Elden Ring my game of the year, despite its many problems. Yet Neon White, the first game by Studio Angel Matrix, has almost edged out Elden Ring for me.
I think it's a shame that this game hasn't really gotten the attention it deserves. That's kind of the point of this video. I think this game is absolutely fantastic and that you should play it. So, after all that, you're probably still wondering, what is Neon White? What Neon White is a game where you do a level, then you do it again, but faster. Then you do it again, but faster. Then you do it again. That, of course, is not the actual premise of the game. The story is that you are Neon White, a damned sinner who has been taken to heaven with the purpose of eliminating demons, for the prize of being able to stay in heaven. He conveniently also has amnesia. He's also not the only Neon too. There's Neon Violet, Yellow, Red, and later on, Green. Neons who all seem to have known White when he was alive. As an introduction, it's solid but not amazing. The way this information is presented to you is done well enough, and it also introduces the game's, in my opinion, really great art style. The problem though is, well,
the dialogue in this is a fucking embarrassment.
It's just not very good. But let's talk about that later. Right now, I want to go a bit deeper into what you actually do in the game. The game is separated into a series of linear levels, where you have two goals: get to the end, and eliminate all the demons. The way you take out these demons is that you use cards found throughout the level. These cards give you access to different guns. Because they're cards, they also have discard abilities. These abilities are all movement based, whether that be a double jump or a dash forward. That is probably the most basic overview of the game I can give you. So let's go more in depth. Let's start with the movement. Your character moves more or less how you would expect. Something about the movement that does stand out though is that you have a very high and floaty jump. This is an aspect that can be both useful and a hindrance, as there are times where, depending on how fast you land, you can seriously alter your overall time on a level. To put it simply, it just feels good to move in this game. Everything about your run speed, your jump, it just feels nice. It's simple but effective. Moving on to the weapons, there are 8 types of weapon cards, but I'm actually only going to talk about 7 of them. Your katana, which is a melee weapon that is slow and kind of useless actually. The purify card, which gives you a machine gun and a bomb that has a ton of different uses. The elevate card, which gives you a pistol and a double jump. The Godspeed card gives you a rifle and a dash forward that can also kill enemies. The Stomp card gives you an Uzi and a ground pound. The Fireball card gives you a shotgun and a better version of the Godspeed dash that can be aimed in any direction. Finally, the Dominion card gives you an RPG and a grappling hook. You can use the RPG to rocket jump, and as a TF2 player, this immediately became my favorite card in the game. These cards build a toolset that allow you to get through each level. Something that's important to keep in mind is that even though Neon White is a shooter, in the sense that you need to shoot things, you don't need to actually have good aim to play the game, as every enemy target is stationary. Another thing that you'll realize the more you play the game is that ammo matters a lot, and being able to have enough bullets in your cards can matter more than anything in a level. This is a toolset that, at first, might not seem like it gives you a lot of options, so I want to try and demonstrate the amount of depth this game has. To do that, let me show you the second level in the game, Gunner. Gunner is on the surface a pretty simple level. You go down this path until you get the Purify card. You shoot the demons in a pattern like this, go to the side, and then you're done finishing the level in about 16 to 17 seconds. So that's the normal time you'll get when you'll first finish the level. Here's my time. Here's how you actually do the level. Doing a level this way requires the use of a few mechanics, one the game teaches you about and one it doesn't. The first is the Purify card discard ability I mentioned earlier. You can use the 2 cards you are given to both explode all the demons at once and propel yourself to the exit. The second mechanic I used is water. In the game, you get a speed boost anytime you're on water. The game never directly tells you this, it expects you to be able to figure this out by how much water is present in the first few levels. An important rule of thumb with this game is that if you can be on water, you should be. Pairing the 2 runs side by side, look at how different both of them are. Levels like Gunner are what make Neon White so incredible. The ability to have this like Jimmy Neutron Brain Blast and break apart these levels. To get times that don't even seem like they should be possible. Breaking apart levels can be even simpler than that. Later in the game, there's a new type of demon that takes the form of a boost pad. They had these pedals? I think that's what they are. Each pedal boosts you in a different direction, with the green pedals showing you where to go. But what happens if you just ignore the green pedal? We're not even scratching the surface of how in-depth you can go in this game. Earlier in this video, I lied. I said the katana you have is basically useless. See, what it actually allows you to do is reflect enemy bullets, like this. And you know what you do when you do that? You get a speed boost. And you know what else gives you a speed boost? Shooting enemy bullets of your own.
Remember those bombs I talked about before? You can actually place 2 down at once to get an even bigger jump boost. And the water I talked about, you actually don't have to be directly on the water, you can just be slightly above it and still get the boost. And you see those circular demons right there. The best way to go about them is you want to stay as close to the inside as possible, and do that the whole way as you get a slightly faster boost. And another thing too about the game is...
Yeah, so there's a lot of mechanics in this game. This whole video could be me talking about all the little intricacies of the mechanics. But I do want whoever's watching this to actually play the game, so I'll avoid discussing them more, so you can figure it out for yourself. The backwards long jump from Super Mario 64 is arguably the most famous speedrun trick of all time. A glitch that allows you to speed up staircases, including the infinite one that's supposed to be impossible to get up. It's such a famous trick that you might have heard about it without ever having watched a Super Mario 64 speedrun. Neon White is a game that is full of a ton of different tricks that are like backwards long jumping, except this time, they're intentional. Let's talk about the levels for a bit. There are, excluding bonus levels, 97 levels in Neon White. These levels are separated into 12 missions that range in both difficulty and visual aesthetic. Something this game does really well is make every level feel distinct. None of the levels in the game really feel that similar. In fact, they have implanted themselves so much in my mind that I could point to probably any screenshot of a level and tell you which one it is. There are 2 ways you'll play through a Neon White level. The first is just to get to the finish line and figure out how the level works. And then the second way is trying to improve your time. For a lot of the levels in the game, playing through the second way is like playing a whole new level entirely. Earlier in the video, I showed myself playing Gunner. The way I play that level now is radically different than how I played through it the first time, and that's what it's like playing through a lot of levels in this game. Every level in the game has some kind of skip, whether that be something small that saves only a half second, or one that can save over 5. If you're like me, you're probably going to spend a lot of time trying to optimize your current time on each level. Doing this is where the level design starts to truly shine. Now, one of my very few criticisms of this game is that some of the later levels are a little too rigid in how you can play them, with the skits being very minor in comparison to some other levels. This doesn't make the levels unfun per se, but it does make me less interested in replaying them. Beyond just the normal levels, there's another type of level in the game, bosses. There are 3 boss levels in the game, where you have to fight Neon Green. The way these levels work is that Green moves on a set path through the level. At points, you have to damage a series of crystals, lowering his shield, letting you do damage to him. The first few times you do these levels, it doesn't really seem like there's a way to do them that much faster. However, the more you play them, the more you realize you can actually damage him when he's moving, which is pretty cool. I'm not a fan of these levels. I don't hate them, but I don't think this was the way to implement boss combat into the game. I think my issue is that if you're like me and aren't the best at being able to kill the boss early, these levels, especially the second one, just take so long to do. I really don't dislike these levels, I just feel like there was probably a better way of doing this, though I'm too stupid to think of a good replacement. And oh my god, dude, the second boss in this game, it's so fucking long. It's more of a marathon than the level literally called Marathon.
Let's talk about the medal system for a sec. There are 5 medals in the game: bronze, silver, gold, platinum, and the secret one I don't tell you about, the Dev Time medal. Whenever you get a new medal, you get a new bonus. These bonuses include hints, being able to see your ghost, and most importantly, a global scoreboard. I really love the scoreboard especially because you have to get an ace medal to even see it. So you get the ace medal, which usually requires you to figure out one of the shortcuts, which probably makes you feel pretty proud of the time you just got. But then you look at the scoreboard and you're not even like top 75,000 in the world. Also, you can see your friends' times as well. I don't have any friends who play this game because they are all weirdos who think Counter-Strike 2 is fun. So I'm not going to talk about that feature. Also, to Icemelt Purple, if you're watching this, I used the wrong there in the script. So what are you going to do about it? Huh? The game's art style is really interesting. The main structures in each levels are these large, minimally detailed buildings. The game art style works in keeping the screen uncluttered and focused. There's never a point where you feel confused on where you're supposed to go. There's actually a surprising amount of detail if you want to look out for it. Like the first mission, for example, even though the main background is just water and clouds, there is a very well drawn and detailed sky island just sitting there in the background. It's not the best looking game ever or anything, but the art style works well for what the game needs. The character designs in this game are also really cool. They capture this very edgy 2000s anime aesthetic that I have a personal soft spot for. The characters' designs heavily remind me of the show Bleach, arguably the ultimate edgy 2000s anime. It's also like Bleach in the sense that the writing sucks. The music in this game is absolutely fantastic. It was done by the band Machine Girl. Even if you're not aware of that group, you've probably seen this album cover floating around your YouTube recommendations. I described their music as really heavy EDM. Anyways, what makes the music in this game so good is not that each track is individually that good, but that they all fit perfectly for the vibe of each level. Whether that be the track Glass Ocean that plays in the first mission, complementing the ethereal vibe that comes with that level's visuals, or the track Helion, which goes with the chaos of the Hanging Garden section of the game. And that's just 2 tracks. There's over 2 hours of music they composed for this game.
And alright, I've been putting it off long enough. Let's talk about the writing. To learn more about each character and to get the good ending, you have to find these gift packages hidden in almost every level. The process of finding these is either pretty easy or shockingly difficult. I don't know if I can honestly say I really enjoyed the gift hunting that much, but it was definitely a change of pace from the normal type of gameplay. There are 4 other Neons that seem to know White: Neon Yellow, whose personality could be described as himbo; Red, who's supposed to be like this seductive woman who White is also in love with; and Violet, the most normal NCR fan. Lastly, there's Green, whose main thing is that he's known as the strongest Neon. My issue with these characters is just that they're just not really that interesting. They fall into a lot of the tropes you see in anime. I feel like I had seen so much anime that had characters like Violet and Red. Yellow is the only one that arguably doesn't fall back on any tropes, but, and again, spoilers, he dies like a quarter of the way through the game, so it doesn't really matter. Another thing about the writing is the comedy, and humor is subjective in a lot of ways, but I can honestly say I found basically none of the jokes in the game funny. I think I might have laughed at one, maybe, which is really frustrating because I kind of struggled to see what you would get out of the story outside of the humor. Like, I really struggled to see how anybody was emotionally invested when playing this story. Like, I don't see what's like engaging about any of these characters. There are things that happen in this game's story that maybe would be cool if I had actually cared. Like, for example, we learned that the main Neons, when they were alive, were all in a gang together, and they all died in one final mission. One of the awards you get for finding the gifts is that you get to see the last memories they had while they were still alive. These scenes are almost good in a lot of ways. If I had actually cared for these characters, I might even like these scenes. But I just don't, because the game doesn't try to develop them in a way that is interesting or engaging. I really want to be able to point to a specific scene and explain why it doesn't work, but the problem is I don't really remember any of them well enough to speak on. And I played through this game twice, and the fact that I have done that and still don't remember like almost any scene is a pretty big issue. And that kinda sucks, because I think this game's premise is really interesting. The idea that a bunch of people are snatched from hell for a chance of getting into heaven if they win this competition, that's really cool. That's something you can work with. But instead, all the game gave us was this.
You are my Sasuke, man.
Something I will give this game's writing is that the side characters are a lot more enjoyable. Mainly Mikey. He's the angel who gives you missions. An actually nice detail about this game is that every person perceives angels differently. So the main character, Neon White, views him as a cat. And Neon Yellow, in a joke, sees him as being John Cena. He's portrayed as this older gruff guy who likes mafia movies. There's a subplot about him having a crush on a secretary. It's cute. It's also maybe the most enjoyable part about this game's story. I think my biggest issue more than anything is that a lot of the writing just feels kinda lazy. Like, it feels like they didn't really try that hard. It feels like the game needed to have a story, and this is what they came up with. Something I will say is that the game does let you skip cutscenes even straight from the start, and that's nice, but I wonder if the game is so willing to let you skip the cutscenes so easily because they were aware themselves that it wasn't very good. The only benefit you get from doing the story is that you get to do the neon-themed levels. Each pack of levels has a different theme. In Yellow's levels, you aren't able to use any of your discard abilities. Red's levels only give you access to one type of card, and Violet's levels are basically troll levels. Of the three, Yellow's levels are my least favorite. They're an interesting idea, but I don't think they fully build on the concept of not having your discard abilities. Red's levels, on the other hand, are pretty fun. Considering they limit you to only one type of card, the levels are still really fun and interesting to complete. And then you have Violet's levels, which are easily my favorites. They're designed to be like Mario Maker levels in that they're kinda trolly. The walls are covered in spikes, and you have to do a weird movement type to get through them. My favorite one is the level where you get sent to Idiot Island. Violet's levels are, I think, the only bonus levels that I would say are on par with the main levels of the game. I don't know how well this came across in the video, but I cannot stress how sick this game is. I have always somewhat been into speedrunning. I've watched a lot of speedrunning content, and I tried to stay up to date with certain categories. But I've never wanted to speedrun a game myself until I played Neon White. And it almost feels like that was the point. The game gives you these stylish, flashy tools that are easy to use, then hints at ways you can play even better. It's maybe the perfect Babies for Speedrun game, or at least it is for me. I think what I can say about Neon White that summarizes my feelings on this game is that it opened my mind to a new way to interact with games. Now, if you'll excuse me, I gotta get back to grinding some levels.